Welcome back to AllTheMons. I'm Bobstar, and since last episode, I made a few small upgrades to our mob farm to make things a bit easier to manage. We can now turn the whole thing off with a single lever using the redstone link from Create. I also made another void upgrade and set up that to mobs and a stack upgrade so we can hold 1,000 per stack. And I also did a little mining to restock on some resources we were running a little low on, because today is a big one. We're finally jumping into Mekanism and working towards our main storage system, QIO. This is going to let us store a massive amount of items in a really clean and compact setup, and it's going to be a huge upgrade from what we're working with right now. You know, tons of barrels. I also want to set up a quick iron farm at the start of this episode so we don't have to worry about iron anymore, because, well, I completely forgot about it, and we're going to need a lot of it. By the end of this, we should have a fully functional storage system up and running. So, let's get started. I went ahead and got all the resources together, a bucket of lava, some glass panes, 2 iron, and a stone, and we're going to make 3 of these. Then we're going to go ahead and place them all right here on the wall, and we'll go ahead and take some villagers that we picked up from one of our villages for the easy villager mod, and we can just place them all right in here, and they will start producing iron and poppy. And eventually we'll hear some iron golems start falling into the lava, and that will create us the iron. But for now, we're just going to leave it here and let it start accumulating, because we'll start picking this up later. So we're making 2 basic control circuits with osmium ingots and some redstone, because we're going to use those to make an enrichment chamber, which is just steel casing, 2 basic control circuits, some iron, and some redstone. And then we're going to go ahead and use some of our steel and redstone to make some basic cables so we can start running some power out from our furnace here instead of just having to stack stuff next to it. So let's move these. So now the reason we want the enrichment chamber is we're going to use this to get more value out of our redstone and some other resources later on. But if we put a redstone in here and we let it run, we get enriched redstone, and 1 enriched redstone equals 8 redstone. So now we can do 8 processes, and if we look, it comes to 80 millibuckets. So then we could put 8 pieces of copper in here, and that will give us 8 of our infused alloys. And since we have so much redstone, we're just going to let this run and enrich all of this redstone, because we'll definitely use it. And our ultimate goal with this mechanism setup is to get to the ultimate control circuits. And to do that, we're making the infused alloys currently, but then we need to make the reinforced alloy, and that is going to require some diamond with the infused alloy. And we're going to use 3 different infusers here, because we're going to have 1 for redstone, 1 for diamond, and 1 for the refined obsidian. So this one here, we can just dump all of our redstone in. Then we're going to take this infused alloy and put it into the second one. But then we're going to go ahead and put some diamond in here in our enrichment chamber and get some of our enriched diamond, because it does the exact same thing. Instead of it giving you 10 millibuckets, it gives you 80. So we can place that in here. We now have the 80 millibuckets of diamond, and we can start turning these to the reinforced alloys. And now this step does take 20 millibuckets instead of the 10 that this one takes, and then the next one will take 40. And then we are going to place 1 more infuser down, so that way we can make steel without having to waste a ton of coal, because we can enrich charcoal to enriched carbon instead of using coal. And well, you can't use charcoal for the hammer recipe. But now that we have some reinforced alloys, our next step is to make the atomic alloys, and to do that we need enriched obsidian. To get enriched obsidian, we need refined obsidian dust, and to get refined obsidian dust, we need obsidian dust with some enriched diamonds, which means we're going to need to craft a crusher. We'll go ahead and place our crusher right here, and then we can come over here to this barrel and grab some obsidian. And then we just crush this down. Now that we have some obsidian dust, we can go ahead and put this in with our diamond, and that's going to start turning into enriched obsidian dust. Now that we have some refined obsidian dust, we can go ahead and start enriching that to make the enriched refined obsidian. And then we can start taking that enriched obsidian and placing it into our final infuser here to start making the atomic alloy, which is what we need to make our ultimate control circuits. And since we're making refined obsidian anyway, we can go ahead and make an osmium compressor. We need to make some advanced control circuits, which is just basic control with the infused alloy. And then we just place this down, and we can put some osmium in here with the refined obsidian dust to make refined obsidian ingots, which can be used for some very powerful tools and armor. It is actually better than netherite. And while we're at it, we're going to make some basic tier installers to make this process a little quicker. So now with everything upgraded, we can do 3 processes instead of 1, which just triples our speed. And we can also move up to advanced, elite, and ultimate, but they're going to take a bit more power, and I don't want to chance us running out of power quite yet, because we haven't gotten into more power than what this is generating. But if you want to, you could absolutely run multiples of these furnaces and further upgrade them, because, well, we have an absolute ton of lava that we are just kind of sitting on. But now that we have some atomic alloy, we can start making all the other alloys to start making our control circuits. And they just kind of work down. It's 2 atomic alloy and 1 elite control circuit to make the ultimate control circuit. There is also a metallurgic infuser recipe that requires 250 millibuckets of refined obsidian with 1 elite control circuit to make the ultimate control. And this just doesn't seem like it's really worth doing versus doing this craft. This ends up being a little less. And since we're limited on resources, that's how we're going to do it for now. Make sure that you come into the Mekanism questbook and start picking up some of these rewards, because, well, you can use these. It just means you're going to have to create a little less than what you originally had to. And while we're waiting for all this, we're going to go ahead and make some upgrades, specifically some muffling upgrades, because these machines are loud and annoying. You can just shift right click them on all of the machines and it will get rid of the noise. And then we're going to go ahead and put 2 speed and 2 energy upgrades into each of our infusers here and our enriching chamber, just to speed this process up even further. And since we have a ton of refined obsidian, while we're waiting on our last bit of infused alloys to be crafted up, because I think I did my math right, and I think this will be enough for what we need for our storage. But in the meantime, I am making some refined obsidian armor. And then we're going to go ahead and make a refined obsidian pickaxe, a refined obsidian axe, and a shovel. And then we just place all of these down, like so, to make a refined obsidian paxel. And this will be able to chop trees down, mine stone and ore, and shovel dirt. And it does 17 attack damage. So let's go ahead and replace all of our armor here. And like I said before, this is better than netherite. And the damage it does is also better even than the refined obsidian sword, surprisingly. The only other thing we're going to make is just another pickaxe, so that way we have it as a separate item. That way we can put some enchants on this, stuff like silk touch and all of that, of course, once we're at that point. So I think this is enough, because we're going to need about 30 of our ultimate control circuits. So let's go ahead and start crafting them all. Alright, so 30 ultimate control circuits, and we still have a good amount of all of this left. Didn't use nearly as much as what I thought we were going to. I definitely did my math wrong, but that's okay. We'll use it at some point. And I didn't think that through either, and I made them all into the circuits when really I needed some of them as the atomic alloy. So we're going to have to just pop some of these in here to make some more. So then the first thing that we're going to make is the QIO Drive Array. And for that, we're going to need 4 teleportation cores, which require the atomic alloys, some ender pearls, gold, and diamond. And then we need to make a personal chest, which is just going to be some basic controls with some steel, some regular chest, and some glass. And with that, we make our QIO Drive Array. And we'll go ahead and put that right here. As you can see, it is empty. We have no way to store anything in here. There's nothing that we can do with it at the moment. So we need to make some drives. And to make some drives, we need some lead ingots, which luckily I found some lead and smelted it up before this episode. So we're just going to make one drive for now. And if we look at this drive, it says it can hold 16,000 items with 128 different types. So the types are going to be the different types of items. So infused alloys versus reinforced versus basic universal cables, torches. Each tool is going to be its own type, but it'll allow all those items to stack up in here. And obviously we're going to want more of these, but for now this is what we're making because we're going to need more ultimate control circuits. But now we have a storage system here, but there's no way to access it. And that's where we need to make the QIO Dashboard. Once again, it is another teleportation core, some glass panes, lead, and a couple ender pearls. And the beauty of this dashboard is it doesn't need to be connected to the drive array. You can put this wherever you want, so if you want to have them all over your base, you can. For now, go ahead and place it right here. And right now, everything is grayed out because there's no frequency set. So we need to set one. Let's go ahead and make this bump star base. We have our frequency here as bump star base, and we can click down here to change the color. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and go cyan. We look over here, set frequency, click on bump star base, click set, and now we have access to our storage. We can put stuff in here, which means we can start dumping items into this. Go ahead and increase the height of this. And we also have 3 different crafting windows that we can open up to do multiple crafts at once. This is really good if you're playing on a server, so people can just use the same dashboard without having to jump around with it. And then you can also sort by name, count, mod, or item ID, and change it to ascending and descending order. So then the last thing that we're going to want to make is a importer. Once again, another teleportation core. And then we need a sticky piston. Luckily, we have plenty of slime. And now that we have an importer, we can start using that to dump all of these items into our system. If we take the importer and we place it on this barrel, which has, some diamonds, some emerald, ferrocore, just a couple different ores that are already smelted or normal. We shift right click it and put it on this importer. And then we select our frequency and set it. This should start importing to our system. Oh, we first need to turn off import without filter. We want that turned on. And that's going to start taking everything in this inventory and putting into the system. So let's come down here. We click on here, it shows us we have 10 different types with 352 items, and it's all in our system now. So we're just going to start throwing this importer down and grabbing everything out until most of these barrels are clear, and we'll break them as we go. And it looks like we are full up on types, so we're going to need to craft another drive. And we went ahead and crafted a bunch of drives because we want to make sure that we can use this storage with all of our items. And we're going to need a lot of space because Cobblemon adds a lot of different items to this game. And we officially have cleaned out all of our chests in here. We've got one chest here with a couple different random items in. And then we have a chest over here with all of our TMs. Everything else is put inside here, and we're only at 231 types with 13,000 items. It is all within our storage, and it really wasn't that hard to set up. It was a bit time consuming. There was a lot of time of me just sitting here waiting, but it was easy. It wasn't something that felt like it took a obscene amount of time to do. And in doing so, we've got all this set up for Mekanism now, which means we can start getting into further Mekanism stuff as we need it. So then the last thing that we didn't make yet and didn't really set up would be the exporter. And the exporter does the exact same thing the importer does, except it'll pull items from our inventory and place them where we want them. So we could set it up where we place this down and we could put a filter in here with some redstone, and it'll send redstone in here to get enriched. You know, and if you start thinking about this, it works exactly like the importer and exporter for applied energistics, but you just have to set actual filter tags for different items. So if we do C raw materials in our exporter here, it's going to start sending all of our raw ores into this, and then we can put an importer on the front, and it's going to start pulling those items out and putting them into our system. So now we can just dump raw ore in here and it'll automatically smelt it down. And we can speed this up by upgrading this and giving it a speed upgrade. And we could also set this up with ore tripling or ×6 or whatever system you're using. And since we're in Mekanism, we could set this up with this, but we're going to use a different resource generator for that later on. But for now, this will just make sure that everything we have is fully smelted down, so we can use it later. Sure, we're not using a hammer or anything like that. We're not getting the most bang for our buck by doing this, but it is automation. It does get the job done. But now that we have that set up, we can set this up on multiple different things, like this iron farm that we have set up over here. We could pump all of this into a chest and then just directly import. So that's exactly what we're going to do. You could put an importer on each individual one of these, but that's just going to take up extra space. So we'll put some pipes down here, set those to pool. Let's grab a barrel and put that barrel up top here. This is going to start filling up with everything. And then we'll just come up top here, place the importer down, and set this to our frequency. And now everything inside of this chest should start getting imported into our system. There we go. Just always have to remember to turn off the import without filter. Now if we type in iron, we've got iron. Poppies, we've got 65 poppies. So that's going to be it for today's episode. We've got the basics of Mekanism done. And in doing so, we made refined obsidian armor and tools, which are better than netherite. They're a great step, which means we can take on harder and harder things. And then the ultimate goal, we got our QIO system set up with all of our stuff put into our system. This means we don't have to worry about storage for a while. The next step in storage that we're going to take is going to be applied energistics. And we're going to try and hold off on that for a little bit. I rely on it a bit too much. And it is a fantastic mod, but I want to see how far I can go before I break and need the auto crafting, which I can't imagine is going to be too far. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new here, and I will see you in the next one. Later.